Hola, mi gente. You are listening to Dancing into Parenthood, the Entre la Familia series, where Latinos get to hear our stories about raising our children with special needs. I am your host, Dr. Divina Lopez, board certified pediatrician for over 10 years and mom to a little boy with autism and ADHD. My motherhood journey has been my greatest inspiration to creating this podcast because when it comes to our community, we have unique circumstances that we keep entre la familia that we need to share and no longer keep quiet about. On this show, I will give you the tools, information, and strategies to raising a happy and healthy human being. Each week, I am connecting you with other Latino families who have generously shared their personal journeys and struggles so that you can have clarity and insight on what it takes to raise such a special child. Before the episode starts, I want to remind you to follow us on social so you don't miss out on all the support I love to share with you. You can find us on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok at Dr. Divina Lopez, and any place that you hang out on the internet. Also, I can't wait to start the parent sessions. We're starting group parent sessions, and I want you to be there. I want to help guide you if you are struggling with parenthood, if you don't have support, if you're insecure about the choices that you're making for your child, if you just want to get it right for your child, then I encourage you to join the 12-week program where we will meet once a week and I will teach you how to advocate for your child, how to navigate the medical system, how to navigate the educational system, where to find your support system, and how to build healthy family relationships so we can break those toxic cycles, create boundaries with family members, and also learn to love ourselves through it all. All right, mi gente, I want to see you there. So make sure that you go to my website and that you drop your email in there. That way you are the first to know when the group sessions start. Now let's get into the episode. Hello and welcome back to Dancing into Parenthood. I'm Dr. Divina Lopez, your host. And in this episode, we will be discussing the purpose of genetic testing. So for those of you who are not aware, genetic testing for autism serves multiple purposes, and it should be offered to your family after having a diagnosis of autism. So I know there are some families who were not recommended genetic testing after having a diagnosis, but I'm just letting you know that this is part of the recommendations now. And there are multiple reasons why genetic testing is important. It's because it offers potential benefits for the family and for the person who is getting the autism diagnosis, right? So we already know that early diagnosis of autism is really crucial. It's so important because the earlier we have a diagnosis, the earlier we get support and treatment that can really significantly impact your child's development, right? And so if we are aware of having a condition early on, then we can start behavioral therapies or speech therapy, occupational therapy. So early diagnosis is really important and genetic testing can contribute to that, right? So the reason why I say this is because perhaps if there is a situation, for some people, we even do these things like prenatally, right? Like you could know it even before the child is born. You could know it if perhaps your child ended up in the ICU and there were some concerns that the medical practitioners had that led them to think that maybe genetic testing was necessary or important. And what you basically get is just more information, right? Obviously, if there is a genetic cause for having autism, then you're going to have more information like the biological mechanisms, right, that may be important. And this knowledge can help to let us know whether there are other experts your child may need to see, other conditions that may go along with the autism, such as, maybe having seizures or issues with your heart, or there are all sorts of different genetic conditions that can lead to autism. And so when you have those extra pieces of information, then it allows the medical professionals to have some insight as to how they may better help your child, right? And then, of course, if you know that there is a genetic condition that exists within the family, then it also gives the parents more information regarding maybe if they wanted to have other children, what are the risks of those other children developing the same genetic diagnosis or, autism as well. And so it can help in family planning, right? So it's important that we have all of this information, right? We don't know everything yet when it comes to genetics. And so another reason why it may be important to have genetic testing is so if something becomes available maybe in the future and they see that your child's testing is actually positive for one of those sort of like gene mutations or something like that, then they can notify you later on in the future. And, obviously, again, you get more information for your child and for your family. So genetic testing is usually done by the geneticist. They usually do a whole consultation. They examine your child. They basically get information from your child's blood sample or saliva sample that you give them, and it goes to a specialized genetics lab where they actually do the testing. Also, just to let you know, genetic testing really can be done in different ways, where there are more tests that may be done in some and others maybe less. And so that also depends on which lab you have to send it out to. And we always want to be able to use our medical insurance coverage. Sometimes these things are covered and sometimes they are not. So I would always recommend that you have a conversation with your medical insurance carrier to see which testing they actually do cover, because these tests can be quite expensive. So what I want you to think about is how this testing might give you more answers, and it may help to solve some of the confusion that you may have, and it may just give your family a lot more information that they may need regarding future members of the family, right? And so I think one of the things that is more of an issue in Black and Brown communities when it comes to genetic testing is that it can be quite expensive, like I mentioned. And so in this way, it's like you may feel like there is this inequity there because not all insurance coverage will pay for this sort of testing. It is really very expensive. Sometimes there are some, uncertainty, anxiety, emotional sort of distress that can go along with having this testing within the family, right? So we need a lot of good counseling when it comes to genetic testing, and that's why I would always recommend that you see or have a genetics consult done. at the same time, so they can give you the right information, so they can interpret the lab testing correctly, and then relay that information to you and your family as well. All right, so I'm just going to give you a little bit of information about what we did as a family for my son. When he initially received his diagnosis, we did not go further with any genetic testing at that time. Now that my son has been having some concerns that I think may be linked to some of the genetic or like mutations or that I've studied. Now I'm starting to think that having genetic testing is really important for my son. And one of the things that his developmentalists did recommend was to have it early on. I'm hoping that we can take advantage of that now, because like I said, I'm just noticing some things that my son has been complaining about, which may be linked to some genetic diseases that are out there. And when I look at my family history and just family members, I do see that, we do have many people in the family that are on the spectrum. And so now I am wondering whether or not this could be genetic, from my side of the family even. And when I called for a genetics consult, the wait is just as long as for the developmentalists. So I would recommend that you do it sooner than later, because we are currently on a wait list. It's not like you can get an appointment next week for this sort of testing or consultation. And that can be distressing to us sometimes because we want answers now. So I wouldn't recommend that you wait too long. If this is something that you think is going to be valuable for your child and your family, especially if you're planning on having other children in the future, I think that this could be a really great way of getting some good information that may be really important when it comes to family planning. And so I would highly recommend that you consider getting a genetics consultation, and then you can decide from there if genetic testing is the right route for your family. And there are a lot of things to think about. This may open up the door to other treatments for your child. This may give your family just some answers that they have been looking for. And so I personally do consider it to be quite valuable at this point. I remember when initially, when it was offered to us, one of the reasons why I stayed away from it was because I felt, at that time, there wasn't too much information regarding genetics and autism, right? We were still looking for answers about where does autism come from? Why does it happen? Now that I've done much more research and training in autism itself, now I see the value in it. And so my opinion about it has changed. And I'm looking forward to having genetic testing for my son. And just, simply to see whether or not it is going to provide any answers for us as a family. And I will definitely let you know. Right now, like I said, we're on a wait list. I will let you know once we go through that process, what is that like, and I'll update you all on that. But from what I was told, it is a 6 to 8 month wait list just to get an appointment. Alrighty. So I'm going to leave you with that. If you have any questions regarding genetic testing, regarding autism, you can always reach out to me. You can find me on my website, on Instagram. And I love to connect with you all. Thank you so much. I hope that this is useful for you and for your family. And if you have already gone through the process, I would also love to hear what your experience was like. All right, mi gente, I love you and take care. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with your family and friends. Also, join me for my group parenting sessions. I want you to be the first to know, so go directly to my website at www.drdivinalopez.com and share your email with me. That way you'll be the first to know when sessions start. Also, you can find me on Instagram at Dancing into Parenthood and on TikTok at Dr. Divina Lopez. Also, if you like this podcast, please subscribe. That way you always know when a new episode drops. I love you. Bye.
Please keep in mind that all advice given in this podcast is general information. To understand your specific situation, you must consult with your pediatrician.